Hey guys, this past Saturday I registered for a Paint the Bay event in White Rock, which meant that the local arts council was giving out free canvases to 60 artists to complete a plein air painting of the beach. And it was technically a painting competition, and it was completely free and it was open to anyone, so I signed up. And unfortunately, I didn't actually record any of this painting footage, so I'm just using this footage of me painting a picture of a rabbit that I saw when I was camping. So the visuals are kind of unrelated, but if I have anything, I will insert a clip here and there. But anyway, I just wanted to share my experience because I actually learned quite a bit about myself during the process and how I was pretty unprepared. Okay, so I've done the outdoor painting stuff a few times, although the one that I normally do in spring is different. First of all, it's usually not a competition. Second, it's a much longer day. But most importantly, it's a completely different support. So you have a choice between an 8x10 canvas or an 8x10 piece of paper that sometimes they give out, sometimes you have to bring it yourself. And considering that I'm more comfortable with watercolor, I would bring the paper, and so I would be in my own element, and it's watercolor, so I could work on my lap. It's pretty simple, and I can do things in watercolor pretty quickly, and it works for me, and it's enjoyable every year that I get to do it, and I love the experience. So naturally, when this other competition came up, I went for it. And first place prize was $500, which is quite a lot. And I didn't really think too much about it until a few days beforehand when I realized, you know what? I have not prepared at all for this. Now, the rules for the competition was you show up at 9 o'clock, they give you your material, you bring your own paint, you scout around for a good spot, and you wait until 10 a.m. to start painting. From then on, you only have until 1 o'clock to finish the painting. So that's 3 hours. Normally, that's plenty. I can do quite a bit in an hour if I have already gotten things kind of planned out. But long story short, I did not complete the painting. It did not go nearly as well as I expected. I'm not unhappy with the way it worked, but it's completely unfinished. It's not even close to finished. So I was really disappointed at the end of the 3 hours. And in hindsight, there are things that I could have done that would have made it way better. But first I want to talk about things that I did do. I did buy an easel. I thought about Frankensteining something using my already existing tripod. I'm unemployed right now and don't have an income, so I wanted to avoid any purchases at all, pretty much. But I did end up buying a $40 easel because I was kind of surprised that I could find something like that so cheap. Like $40 isn't cheap, but compared to easel prices, generally it's pretty cheap. And so I just picked up this easel at Michael's, and I'm really glad that I did. I had everything packed the night before, and knowing that this was a canvas they were giving me, I knew that I was going to have to use acrylic paint. So I had my paints, I had a collection of paint brushes, I had my water jar, which I didn't want to bring because it was glass, but I didn't have anything else. I brought my palette, which is actually a dinner plate. Again, not the greatest, but it's what I had. A pencil and eraser. I brought a notebook for a pre-sketch. I brought a towel to sit on. Another thing that I did ahead of time was to scout the area beforehand. I knew that I was going to be at least 10 minutes late because I'm taking the bus. Also, the area has some extreme hills, so the more time that I spend walking around, the more exhausted it's going to be, the longer it's going to take. And the thing is, I really wanted to paint something other than the ocean. I also really like the cottage aesthetic, and so I really wanted to find a place that combined a cute cottage or business plus the ocean, like maybe the ocean in the background, with everything facing the ocean. That was very, very, very difficult to find. So I spent so much time on Google Maps, like Google Street View, virtually wandering through neighborhoods trying to find a place that had a view that combined all of the things that I wanted to be able to paint, and 2, had a spot for me to physically be. I did find one spot and saved it as a backup. I ended up going to this tiny little park, which is more like just a corner of a street. But if I didn't scout beforehand, I would have been completely stuck and panicking, and I would have done something that I didn't want to do just to get it done on time. An hour goes by really, really fast. The other thing that I did was I brought a color scheme with me. I went on Pinterest and I found something that A, fit the subject, and B, looked aesthetically pleasing to me. I personally tend to get into this trap where I try to do things accurately at the expense of creativity. So if I'm trying to paint an object that is just kind of drab, boring colors, I'm going to end up trying to imitate those boring colors, and I'm going to end up with something that's boring. Because lots of things in reality, in real life, are boring colors. So here's what went wrong. I set up my stuff. I began painting. I was a little unsure of myself, but I started. And I definitely had a little bit of pressure because I wanted to give myself the chance to maybe win, you know? Everyone does. I put a little bit of pressure on myself to make this mine. And what I did wrong is I spent so much time working background to foreground. I was nervous. I didn't know what I was doing. I was doing the sky and the ocean and clouds, but I was also trying to make it interesting. I didn't want it to be too realistic because I was up against probably people who do plein air painting all the time. In this same medium, there's a lot of talent in this area specifically for realistic paintings. And I knew that, especially with acrylic, something that I'm not super practiced in, I wasn't going to be able to compete in that way. The only thing that I could give myself a leg up is with creativity and personality. So I focused more on the color scheme that I wanted to make it visually interesting. I focused more on textures. I wanted to add a pattern because that's a thing that I do in my painting sometimes. But I spent so much time trying to perfect the background before I paint over top of it that halfway through my time I realized that I had nothing. I had a background, I had an outline of a house and a fence, and I started panicking. Paint wasn't drying fast enough because it rained. I felt unbelievably rushed. I ran back to hand the painting in, felt better about myself considering I wasn't the only one in this situation. And then we went to go find food because it was like 1:30 and we were tired, like cold, freezing cold and hungry, sitting in the rain. If I could go back in time, what would I change? Small details first. I probably should have prepared a little bit better for the weather. It did say there was a chance of rain. I brought the towel to sit on because I knew the grass was going to be wet. I wore real shoes. I wore a sweater. I took an umbrella. I should have brought like a hot drink or something to hold on to because I didn't really notice that I was getting cold. Apparently my lips were very blue. I didn't really feel that cold physically, but I was, and maybe I should have been better to myself in that way. Maybe I should have. I don't know exactly what I would have done differently, except maybe bring a hot drink. I also wish I brought more paper towel than I did. I got grass in my paint while I was working. I got paint everywhere. I probably should have worn my apron that I decided not to pack because I was already over encumbered. But other than that, like physically, my preparations were pretty good. But the biggest thing, the biggest thing that I wish that I had done is I wish that I had practiced beforehand. I did not really consider that the events that I was doing every year in the spring were not adequate practice. I was using a much smaller support, and I was using a medium that I was comfortable with, and I knew what I was doing. This particular event was twice the size. It was a 16 by 20 inch canvas, twice the size of painting that I normally do, in a medium that probably takes me at least twice as long. I was not prepared. I should have practiced. I should have set a timer at home and tried painting on surface like that with that medium just to see what my time was like, to see if there was something that I could do. I should have worked all over at an equal pace instead of starting background to foreground like you would normally do if you had endless amounts of time to paint something. I should have had a strategy. And while the video clip that I took does not even close to capture the actual colors that are on the canvas, I was at least happy that I had picked a color scheme and mostly stuck with it, even if I didn't get nearly far enough to include all of it. And so yes, this is going to be hung in their gallery for a little while, and it's gonna seem unfinished, and when I bring it home I will finish it. See if I can get the vision that I wanted, and I will film that. It's definitely an acquired skill to have the flexibility to change directions when you realize something isn't going well, and to reprioritize things when the timeline is not working out well either. So for anybody who is visiting, feel free to share your tips for plein air painting, especially for competitive events or ticking clock events. This rabbit painting is available for sale. I also have a couple of cute acrylic wash paintings on wood veneer in the shop. And on Patreon, we are doing a sort of mechanical based theme to fill up our sketchbooks. I pick a theme every month and we go with it. I've been doing a lot of Powerline pictures. Seems silly, but I'm addicted to them, and you should try it. You can visit me over there. It would really help a lot. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.